This is Lucas Camacho for the Hollywood Times, and I have the privilege of talking to Matthew and Erica. Guys, thank you both for all your time.
Thank you,
Oh,
Luke.
thanks for having us.
So, my first question, obviously, ladies first, Erica. So, what drew you to this project, given your background?
Yeah, my background is not in sports documentaries, and I knew very little about the Yukon and the Huskies. I am, I really like sports documentaries that are human stories that transcend the sports of it all. And so what I was interested in doing is just that. And I think Matt and I were aligned on that we wanted to make a series that people, whether they were sports fans or basketball fans or not, could really relate to, and that this would resonate with a larger audience.
All right. So, Matthew, my question is for you next. I mean, you've already done one before. You did the Dynasty, the New England Patriots. What made this one about the Yukon women so different and so similar?
It's interesting. Whether it was the Tiger Woods documentary or the Yukon or the Patriots documentary or this, as Erica said, I don't think either of us really knew all that much about the team and about the characters before we started. So, the processes of really listening to the people talk and have them guide you through the story and, not talking to them about the basketball really all that much, even though obviously it is about basketball. We didn't focus on the sports of it. We really focused on these people who are going through extraordinary circumstances, but grappling with very ordinary emotions of, ego and insecurity and fear of failure and things like that. And so if that's kind of the North Star and that's what you're always focusing on, you get to this more universal truth. And I think whether with any of those stories, that's what, I've always focused on and what we focused on with this one. So I think there's a lot of similarities between them. It doesn't really matter what the subject is. And I think that's similar with any of the, fiction films that we all love to watch. Is the thing that we resonate with is the things that make those characters human and relatable.
So, obviously, neither one of you had too much knowledge of the Yukon program going into this documentary. What were you expecting when you were talking with people like Coach Gino? And Erica, I guess I'll ask you first.
Yeah, I mean, as Matt said, like you research, you learn what you can, but you try not to go in with preconceived notions of who people are until you really meet them and talk to them. And there were news pieces and documentaries that had been done before, and I think we really wanted to go as deep as possible and spend time with these people. So, we wanted to explain to them that we wanted to make something that didn't feel like a survey piece or a timeline, but that really felt more revealing of their sort of processes and, like how they, like with Gino, how he, like what his coaching, how he does what he does, right? In the most sort of rich, interesting way.
Matt, same question.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Um, no, given that you and Erica didn't really know too much about the Yukon program going in, did you have any idea what it would be like talking with people like Coach Gino?
Yeah, I mean, you meet Gino, and the first thing that you see is this guy with a ton of swagger and confidence, and he's obviously won more games than any other college coach. And then as you go through that process of talking to the people around him, you start to hear things about him that are much more nuanced and complex. Like he has imposter syndrome and he has this incredible fear of failure. And then you talk to him about coming to America from Italy as a young kid and being on the playground and not knowing how to speak the language. And that, as he says, he realizes that if he can be better at something than somebody else, if he can beat them at something, that it feels like he can belong in their group. And he talks about how that's something that sort of stayed with him for 40 years of coaching. And so, yeah, you can, the easy thing to do with a guy like Gino is just to come in and say, oh, he has incredible swagger and he wins a lot. And that's sort of the initial thing you notice. But what makes making these stories so great is that you can peel back the layers and understand, but like all of us, these people are much more complicated.
So, as we mentioned before, not too much about the Yukon women going into this. What are your takeaways now that both of you had a chance to work on this documentary about the Yukon women's basketball program and women's basketball in general? Either one.
Should I
Erica?
go or do you want to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think, I really learned like how this path to greatness can happen, and like also what a toll it can take. And that sorry, I'm going to pass it to you, Matt.
No, it's fine. Yeah, no, look, I'll never forget. We were interviewing Paige Beckers in Dallas, and after she'd left UConn and gone to the Wings, and when your audience watches the doc series, I think everybody that's seen it sort of remarks on how raw her interview was, and is sort of shocked by how much she had to go through in order to finally get to the championship that she wins at the end of episode 3. And we asked her, like, why were you so honest and open about all of your struggles that you endured to get to that point? Because it's not what we normally see with athletes. Normally, athletes just want to sort of present this very shiny image. And she talked about how she wanted to make sure the kids that idolized her and wanted to be like her didn't think that greatness is easily accomplished. And I think in a lot of ways, all of these different people, what we're watching is, what they've had to overcome or wrestle with or deal with in order to get to this point. And to accomplish these things. And I think for both of us, that's really what the process was about, was just hearing how hard it was for them. And, to the point where several of them almost quit the program. But I think all of them look back now and view it as one of the most important parts of their entire lives.
All right. Well, thank you both for all your time. And now we're all looking forward to watching this documentary.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thank you.